Oh, hey, we're live. Episode 121, This Life in Tech. I am Jason.
And I'm Dan. Happy
Ma-
Easter, everyone. He is
Yeah.
risen.
Mrs. Pittman said that this morning, man. She came out. I've been up for a while,
Yeah,
working
yeah,
in my
yeah.
office here. And she came out and knocked on the door and said, Happy Easter, he's risen. Okay.
Yeah. He has. I'll be hitting my church service at 10:30 this morning.
I don't know if this is just a Southern Baptist thing, but the concept of a sunrise service, I've never really heard of this. So Marcia described to me, growing up, extremely Southern Baptist. And of course, we're surrounded by it. That get up 6:30 so you can have service as the sun rises.
I guess some people are okay getting up that early. See, I think if I remember correctly, so Baptists, they don't drink,
Right.
so it was perfectly fine, easy for them to get up Sunday at 6:30 in the morning.
I don't know, man. I mean, it's an interesting concept. The metaphor of the sun rising as the sun rises, as the sun rises. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's nice.
Hey, man.
Did you do a little Easter egg hunt for Lily?
Yeah, we did, man. We were looking at farms yesterday.
Right on.
Farmland, I should say. And in the course of that, there's a lot of I think after tobacco from individual family farmers has kind of eroded over time. It seems to me, at least in this area, that a lot of these giant, because where we live, man, it was basically, come to find out, two families that owned all of this around Winston-Salem. My wife's family and then another family, which really is just cousins. I don't want to get into it because I can't keep track of all the names and shit, but that's basically it, right? And we were over on the cousins side.
So what you're trying to say is they were all like the Targaryens, and they just bred amongst each other.
Now, the way I heard it, man, was there was like a great uncle that liked to travel and found some other families on the other side of the county. Let's put it that way, right? And so that was how it kind of split by name. Whatever, dude. It's too much for me to manage, and I care, but I don't care. What I really want to know is how much is this per acre? That's like, I don't care that you're drinking cherry wine and whatever, dude. How much per acre? Let's break this down. Anyway, so we were going around looking at these mini farms, because the point I was driving at is these giant, I mean, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of acres spread all over the place, right? Have been chopped up over time into what they classify here as a mini farm. And so that's the scale we're looking at. We're looking at like 20 to 60-ish acres total. And so we were looking at some of them, and one of the ones we went to look at wasn't for sale, but it was operational. And they had a little Easter egg hunt, man. And it was sweet. They had somebody in a Easter bunny suit. We went on a hay ride, which I've always liked since I was a kid. All kinds of cool stuff, man.
Nice.
How about you?
Just for the most part, studying, reading, just trying to relax a little bit. It's been some crazy couple of weeks. And I have a feeling it's going to be a crazier next few weeks. So,
yeah.
Got the finals start next weekend, and then it's next weekend and the weekend after, and then the weekend after. So 3 weekends in a row of finals.
Boy, that's stretched out, man.
Yeah, they don't make you take them all on the same day, which is good. And overall, the classes are great. This coming weekend one's going to be a nightmare because it's supply chain, and that one's kind of going to be kind of tough for sure. We'll find out.
Yeah, well, the point is, man, is you're challenging yourself and you're growing as a result of it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I mean, it's great to understand how all this stuff happens, process improvement, constant, the discipline that you're involved in or that you're getting the tools to be able to handle is quite good. And you want to make sure your ERP software can handle it, right?
Right.
Or the manufacturing software, so you can see, what's work in progress, start calculating and figuring out where the bottlenecks are. We were talking about that a little bit, last time.
Right. Well, it's definitely one of those things where, barring a few niche outlying examples, I've never met somebody that said they wish they were stupider or that they didn't learn something. You know what I mean? Like, learning is not a waste of time in any way, shape, or form. And it seems to me that we as humans innately understand that. Now, sometimes we choose to not put the work in, but
dude, I don't know. I can't tell you how many people that I've spoken to that are like, yeah, I don't want to do anything more. I'm good. They become complacent.
And no, I dig what you're saying.
Yeah. And those are just the kind of people I'm like, I have no more use for this guy or gal.
Well, I find it hard. I find it hard to have meaningful conversations like that. You know what I mean? With people that are in that situation. I understand it. I mean, I dig it, especially given the power of status quo as a social construct. But
not for me, bro.
No.
That's the way I look at it. Not for me. I'm actually not joking. I hope at some point I've got enough cash in my bank account that I can go back and get a law degree. I want to go be the people's lawyer. Like, literally, I will only, I would do it. I would do nothing but, for the most part, pro bono like work for those that I have to believe in taking a look at it that they're not guilty. Because when we know that even though justice is blind, it's also can be swayed based on the type of an attorney you can afford.
Sure.
Because they're better attorneys. And so they know how to spin certain things and what to object and how to write the briefs and all these kind of things. And perhaps someone would have been found not guilty of a crime that they probably didn't, maybe they didn't commit, but couldn't afford a proper attorney to prove it.
Well, I mean, money buys access.
Yeah. Like, I would never have defended O.J. Simpson.
Right.
We studied that ad nauseum at GW from crime scene investigation. That entire case was a great example of a bad example of what not to do.
Yeah.
And if I, having seen that evidence, I'd have been like, dude, you killed those people. I mean, I would never have defended them ever.
Sure.
So I would absolutely, like, I hope I'll be able to do that, like, in the next 10 years, go back and go to law school.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting segue, because maybe you could defend software developers.
Well, it depends on the software developer. Not ones that have been convicted of writing malware.
Yeah. I don't know if your Twitter's been blowing up since you reset yourself. But I've slowly been pruning mine, let's say. I'm trying to curate my feeds, so to speak.
Yeah.
And man, in fact, I linked to a thread this morning, and dude, forget it. I mean, there's a very interesting discussion to be had, I think, in the vertical of the case itself and all the details. And then the comments about it are just a gold mine, man. A gold mine. Like, look, man, I'm not a big fan, and I think you and I agree on most of this, maybe not all of it, most of it, on some of the positions the federal government has been able to get itself into over time. And it's us as the people allowing it, fair enough, right?
Yeah.
But in some of these threads, to say that the government is fascist for prosecuting, in this case, we're talking about Malwaretech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that that's fascist.
It's not fascist, because it's not about. So, recapping what people, in case y'all don't know, this cat Malwaretech allegedly stumbled across something very interesting in the WannaCry ransomware that had to do, if I remember correctly, with DNS. And it was calling out to a domain that had been parked or something along those lines. And so he went in and he grabbed the domain so that way things wouldn't get as bad as what they were. And when I put quotes, because there are rumors and talks of him showing up at the DEF CON prior to this WannaCry event in a Lamborghini and throwing cash around like he was Ric Flair. And I don't know too many people in that industry unless they were the CEO of one of the companies that became a unicorn, where you got that kind of cash you can just be throwing around. But I don't know all the facts of that, but that's just what's out there. This cat somehow got lucky, figured out the whole aspect of WannaCry, and everyone's out there praising his name. This guy is great. He's blowing up. He's got a profile, and everyone's out there. And he shows up to the next DEF CON, and he gets arrested.
Cuffed and stuffed.
Yeah. And everyone was like, oh, this guy's a hero. Why is this happening? Maybe he was a hero. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was a part of everything that went on, and he got cut out, which is why he figured out, why he knew about all the DNS. I don't know. That's pure speculation. But he gets arrested at the next DEF CON, which would have been 17. Right, I think. Yeah, pretty sure that's 17. 2017 DEF CON. He gets arrested as he's trying to fly back to the UK. He recently just settled because they found that he had written real malware that had gone out into the wild and had actually caused damage. He pleaded guilty to 2 counts. Each count carries a $250,000 fine and 5 years in jail.
Right. My understanding is he actually confessed to the prior malware authorship during the interrogation of the 2017 arrest. That's my understanding of the case.
That might be, but he might have admitted. Don't know. But the plea bargain that's on the table, it says that they are dropping the other 14 charges. I think it was either 10 or 14. I don't remember. And he is pleading guilty to the 2 counts that are on there. And because he's accepting responsibility, the DA is recommending a lighter sentence, but we don't know what that means.
Right.
Is he going to get a, what was that cat's name from Lulsec or Anonymous, whatever it was?
Brandon's best friend.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember that cat's name right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But he turned informant to the FBI. So, so anyway, he pleads guilty. I see all this stuff going on. That cat tried to go after Jester, and Jester's like, whatever, dude, and Malwaretech said he was going to expose him. I don't know what this is all about. In this part, it's really kind of funny to me. All these people who claim to be so elite, and they forget they don't have the resources. So someone that's at least even on par, it's easy to be anonymous behind Twitter and stuff. And all these cats keep saying they're gonna reveal who the real Jester is, and none of them have.
Right.
Not one. And so now, of course, that was where I first saw this particular thing pop up, because Jester's going, you're in jail now. Don't drop the soap, homie. I think is what he said, or something along those lines. And here it is. So, of course, from the parts that I've seen, because I don't follow a whole lot more in that community, mainly because it's completely destructive and venomous. So I just don't have time to deal with it. There's a couple of cats that I know and I still follow. But the parts that I saw, they're trying to make it a part that he's being persecuted. To admit he pled guilty. There's no persecution.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I find the whole culture around this, the fandom of it, if you will, sophomoric. I mean, there's no real, I don't mean to be like hoity-toity about it, but I don't know another way to describe how I feel about it. Like the whole, just look at that thread I linked to, right? It's just, it reminds me of a conversation I would have with my buddies in high school. Being dumb kids, not knowing anything about the world, which that's fine. You're kids, right? Of course you don't know anything. And you're just speculating or pontificating as if you do know. And what we do know is he took a plea deal. That's what you know. That's a fact. I mean, you can read it for yourself. There's no ambiguity there.
Yeah,
Well,
and his statement to the public said, "I was young. I've tried using the skills that I achieved younger for good, which is why I did it for WannaCry, or you helped write WannaCry." And that's where we're at.
well, right, and that's part of what I find silly at face value. Like, oh, I learned kung fu and I went around beating up old people in alleyways. But once I got old enough, I started beating up the people beating up the old people. It doesn't make it not a crime, first of all. I mean, beating up people, it largely speaking, can still be criminal activity, regardless of what the instigating circumstances are, unless you're defending yourself or somebody else, right? But why is that even an entertained argument? I mean, you're right. It's not persecution.
Don't look behind the curtain.
That's right.
Don't look over
here. Yeah, right, exactly.
Look, when all that stuff came out, and this is the thing, how fast everything with WannaCry came out and how fast that occurred, my initial reaction was, this cat's involved. And I still believe I have so everyone, I have zero proof that he was involved in anything like that. It just seems to be awfully circumstantial, suspicious, that after this thing is found, that all of a sudden this particular person figured out all of that quickly. Well, there's a lot of people that I highly respect in the malware research field that when they got a hold of it, they didn't find it. Not until after this was pointed out. And I think they are some top people in the field. And this cat found it that quickly. Personal opinion, involved.
I don't know. I've never researched it and looked at it. I don't know. What I do know is, like we already established, he's obviously taken the plea deal. At least as it stands right now, right? What I'm really interested in is the surrounding culture. You know what I mean? There's like this perverse hero worship. I don't get it, man. You know, and I don't think this is a case of one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. I don't think that's it. It's really about taking something that's inherently by its nature neutral, software, right? And because of I don't know if I want to say implementation, use, deployment, whatever you want to call it, of that software, now you have this situation where you've done right or wrong somehow. And then the culture that worships that decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, bottom line, there's writing software is not the crime, right? Everything comes back to the intent, the mens rea, right? Mens rea?
Yeah. I believe that's right.
Which basically says the state of the guilty mind. And this is where you have different levels. You have knowingly, meaning that, yeah, there's a pretty good possibility that you go to do something is going to happen. Intentionally, it's going to happen. Reckless, negligent, all those things as they step up the category. In terms of whether or not it's a difference between whether or not something becomes like manslaughter or homicide.
Right.
It's that type of difference when you get into that category. This dude, he intentionally did something because he knew it was going to happen. Was he reckless? I don't know. Was he negligent? I don't know. Certainly was not the low level, which is knowingly. This was at a minimum intentional. You write software that's malware in nature, and you release it. What did you think was going to happen? Right? It's going to happen. So, there, in my opinion, he got off lucky. Malware is a huge problem. We already have difficulties protecting against it. I wouldn't have accepted the plea deal if I'm the DA. I'm going full out because how many companies get basically destroyed because of malware? And there's just not enough resources to go around. We're constantly saying that there's a resource shortage, and now we're going to let someone who had the power, abused the power, took advantage of a situation, possibly caused millions and millions of damage out there, potentially, who knows? But you found someone writing malware, and you're going to let them off the hook? Not when I ascend to the Supreme Emperor.
To the golden throne. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, I'm not even qualified to be an armchair psychologist, right? But I get really curious about the psychology of this type of behavior. Whether you want to say it's for the lulz or the challenge or however you rationalize it. What leads somebody to do these things, I find deeply interesting. Well, and on top of that, what I find deeply interesting is that we as a community of, at this point, just humans, right, continue to create software and systems that by their nature allow it to have taken place. I'm not blaming the victim, don't get me wrong. I just find the whole situation interesting across these facets, let's say.
Yeah, sure. I get it. I absolutely get it. So
yeah. Well, like, we knew those guys at UC Irvine, right? That had that compiler. Like, it's really, for some time now, I've found it very interesting why those types of things aren't more widely distributed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Me either, bro. But anyway, yeah, there is that hero-like worship going on with this cat. One of the things that I found while working at Silent Circle is never get to know the person that you say is your hero.
Yeah. Yeah. well, why? Here's an interesting parallel, man, because I feel the same way. Years and years ago, before we even met, I was talking to somebody, and this is when Obama first got elected. And I was talking to one of my friends, and he happened to be a black dude. And we were talking about this hero worship of the idea of now having a black president and what that meant to him and his black community. And he lived in like South Central LA. You dig what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And he said, well, what I find offensive is people will ask me, because he had sons, people will ask me, don't you think that's great? Now your sons have a role model. And this dude was really insightful. And he said, well, didn't they already? Because I'm their father. Like, and there's a whole host of loaded assumptions in there that I'm not talking about. It's more of choosing to worship something external to the self rather than trying to maximize yourself so that's your hero of your story. And I think that's particularly what's corrupted in this subculture around cyber, whatever you want to call it, is so many people forget that part of why you become part of this community, at least I think you and I did for this reason, is to challenge yourself and find something that's intellectually stimulating to work on. Not so that I could find some hero to worship. At the same time, I didn't cry when Jerry Garcia died. And I sure as shit didn't cry when Kurt Cobain died. Not that I'm not sad at the loss of human life.
The dude that created the ice cream?
Oh, man. You didn't grow up maybe in an area where I was going to say The Walking Dead. The Grateful Dead are popular. But anyway, I did, man. And I never
might have been popular. I don't know. It was no Snoop Doggy Dogg. It was no Dr. Dre. It was no NWA. That's what I listened to.
Yeah.
Tupac. All them cats.
All right, man. So now I'm gonna get derailed off of whatever rail I was already off of. Do you really think Tupac is dead, or do you think Tupac's still alive, living in Haiti or something?
No, that cat's dead. I mean, it's same thing with Biggie. I just think it's funny on Eminem's last song. He called out P. Diddy, and it was like he put the hit out on Tupac. Oh, I'm just playing.
Oh, man,
it's here's the thing. Even if he is or if he isn't, I don't care. I like the music. He didn't do anything for me personally,
right?
So If that cat's in Haiti or wherever, I'm kind of going, dude, you were already living like a king. Why did you have to go to a third world country?
If I had to, man, I don't think Haiti would be at the top of my list, to be honest.
I mean, wherever. I mean, no matter where you're going, like you already have, tens of millions of dollars in the bank. You can live like a king anywhere in the world. Why would you want to go to a third world country and not have any popularity? You could have just gotten out of the game. With that kind of cash, you can get out of the game.
Well, you can pull a Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. Right. So I don't think anything of it.
Yeah, well stated, man. And that's kind of the point I was driving at is there's lots of things I like that the person that created is probably morally detestable as a human being. Dude, I didn't buy that book or that album or that art because of me liking them or worshiping them as a human being. I like the art for the art,
Yeah, it's this is one of the things that I can't remember what the person's name is. So the Yankees have just recently pulled her rendition to I don't remember which song. What song they basically played in the seventh inning stretch. It's got a whole bunch of history. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now. She like recorded this stuff like in the 1940s or 50s or something like that. And now there's portrayals that she has made racist comments in the past. On today's day, which is really kind of funny to me, here it is Sunday, it's Easter. We're talking about what people have done in their past. Let the without sin cast the first stone.
Right.
Who hasn't done something in their past that they're not necessarily proud of, and now we're going to call them out for it? I mean, this is just like I tell people all the time. You know why in Maryland we don't ever put the lid on the crab pot when we're steaming crabs? Because as soon as one crab starts to escape, all the rest of them pull them right back down.
Right.
What happens in society? Why are we trying to pull people down when they reach a particular platform? Why don't we try to figure out how to repeat those person's steps to get there as well? Lift the communities up, not bring them down.
Right.
Everyone's done something in their past they're not proud of. Everyone.
Well, by large and far, I'm for myself, and I find this increasingly true for myself. I'm just not interested in what you did per se. I'm much more interested in what it is you're trying to do, because that's what I find interesting. Right? I mean, nothing can be done about what happened. It's in the past. So there's lessons to be learned, but is it something to really talk about ad nauseum? Is it something to worship?
So it was Kate Smith's rendition of God Bless America. Recording was in 1939, and they've been using it since after the 9/11 attacks because of allegations of racist songs that occurred. Unfortunately, in that era, there were a lot more people that were very vocal about their I will say their own insecurities of people of other ethnicities. You know what? It happened. Why are we going to take something that didn't matter or did matter, and who didn't do things? I mean, everyone does. It's very easy when you're in a crowd amongst everyone that looks like you, talks like you, to say things that you would not say or do in front of a mixed company.
Well,
and I don't mean mixed in terms of races, just people that aren't like you.
Yeah, right. Outside of your echo chamber, let's say.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with like physical appearance, man. And I think I've always been this way. I just don't care. I really don't care. I don't. Right. It's not that I don't see it. I see it, but it doesn't register to me to make a comment about it because it's not what I'm interested in. And this is maybe why I tend to be more on the feminine side because I'm much more interested in ideas than things. That's why I'm not really an engineer. I'm much more of a philosopher by nature because I'm interested in ideas, not things. And so it doesn't occur to me to exalt the thing as it is. I'm much more interested in the idea of where it's going. And you're right. You're particularly right about communities. And this is what I find so destructive about that subculture is man, it's not even a piranha tank. It's a bunch of guppies pretending they're piranhas.
True. It's funny. So my previous boss used to say there was this one couple of days during the year or something like that. Oh, maybe it was during the full moon. During the full moon, where the snakes will basically all rise up and they kind of dance. And on those days, worms do it too. And they say, "Look, I'm a snake."
Mm-hmm.
All right. And there are people that I work with that will act tough because they're in the work environment, and they'll say certain things to me or about me and that thing because they know at that particular moment I'm not going to do anything. They wouldn't say that kind of stuff to me on the streets. I guarantee it because then there would be a completely different conversation, and those conversations may still very well occur in the very near future because I am perfectly fine with anything except when you go to show true disrespect.
Yeah.
You can say that stuff while you got your suit and tie on and you happen to be in the room or over the computer, keyboard courage, but people in their own communities, they believe that they're protected in that particular point in time, and everything nowadays is blasted out there. So perhaps just be a decent person, realize that you've done some things in your past that you're not necessarily proud of, and stop trying to make a big deal out of everything.
Yes, exactly. Finding things to be offended by.
It's exactly it. Like there's this person that didn't quite get the point that was on Twitter yesterday, talking about we're not going to know all the extent that Kushner and Trump has really done damage to around the United States with all their allies. And I'm like, neither are we going to know everything that Hillary Clinton has done either. And they said, not even relevant. You're deflecting. It's what about this too? No, what I'm saying is I'm agreeing with you. We're not going to know either all the damage that Clinton or the Obama administration has done for years to come. When you essentially selective prosecution or selective taking a look and going along party lines on these kind of things makes it bad for the community. Forget the fact that Hillary had an email server that was processing government data in her home. The law says it's felony. The FBI chose not to do anything because they just didn't want to. It's a felony. We didn't. We're in jail, period. That's not even the worst of her crimes.
Right.
For what's out there. In terms of the rumors, right? Nothing's ever been said, but there's certainly a lot of links. No different than what's going on with everything in the Trump administration. Hillary Clinton's linked to getting funding from foreign countries. She's, linked to all these deaths of people. And yet, nothing's happened. Well, guess what? When you're that powerful, nothing happens.
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting. There's a little synchronicity here because you can obviously connect the Clinton Foundation to Haiti and all that.
Right.
But, and this is why, man, I've really started to look for if there's individual humans that can be taken as examples for various things. Let's say their moral character, their ethical code, their productivity, their whatever, right? I've started to look outside of these hero positions. Like, I'll tell you who I've been recently obsessed with is Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin wasn't president.
Nope.
But man, was that dude prolific in terms of what he provided to his broader community. I mean, forget just signing the Declaration of Independence. Forget his work as an ambassador. Just his science and his inventions alone that he gave away for free. Just his basic philosophy of why he was doing that and how he wanted it to be disseminated.
You ever read Alan Dershowitz's book, America on Trial?
No.
Great book, dude. Great book.
America on Trial, Dershowitz.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Alan Dershowitz is, I think he's now emeritus. I don't think he's actively teaching law at Harvard. Brilliant mind on the Constitution. And he wrote, they say this book, the premise of this book is this. Did the United States have the legal right to break away from England at that time? And he looks at it from the legalities at that point and goes through the entire process. Great book. I mean, it gets into, I love the history of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and how beautifully crafted these things were.
Well, in fact, man, again, synchronicity, that reminds me of the second thing I wanted to ask you about today, which is, what do you think the founding fathers were thinking about, in your opinion, in terms of the Constitution surviving? I mean, we're over a couple of 100 years forward now, which if you look at a document capturing culture, that's an enormous amount of time for something like that to survive, really, for the most part, unmodified. Yes, we've had amendments. I get it, right? But the core of it is unmodified, and I don't know that I see any evidence that it needs to be, per se. Personally, what do you think?
Absolutely, this thing was such beautifully written, and we talk about this in security constantly. Policies. You want a policy, you write it once, and you never have to write it again. It becomes a living document. That is the Constitution. They've made it in such a way in which, if you don't like something that's going on, there is a process to change it. I mean, that's me. That is the beauty, the poetry of that document, and that they allowed future generations a way in which they can slightly change the direction of the country without having to have a revolution.
Right.
Right.
Well, part of it, to me, I think you'll agree with this. The beauty of it is that it's written in a positive framework. That is, it defines what are inalienable rights that define culture, and then the exceptions to what is guaranteed come on through these processes, like through judicial process, right, or legislative process, and that's how you modify. So you have this abstract of what an inalienable right is, right? And then you can modify that using these processes so that you have a more in time with the culture implementation of that abstraction is the way I look at it.
Right. And this is why I laugh. I literally laugh at all these people saying the Second Amendment needs to go away, blah, 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 blah. They start applying to change that. Dude, isn't it like 75% of the states have to ratify a constitutional amendment? So 75%, it's a high amount. I know.
I was going to say it's a high percent. I don't remember off the top of my head. I mean, it's at least a 3/4 majority.
Yeah. Here's how you know that will never change, because 25% of the states have such gun laws that basically mean that they want you to open carry or conceal carry. It's easy to get. So I'm pretty sure it's like 25 states have laws like that. And the reason why I know that is because of my current concealed carry permit in Indiana allows me reciprocity amongst like 25 states.
Right, exactly.
So you're never going to get, a majority to change a constitution like that.
Yeah. Well, look, probably being a little more liberal in gun control than you. We've had this debate to some degree before. I go back to like the Malwaretech thing. The gun is the malware. The gun is the software, not the malware, right? And we don't live in the Wild Wild West, and not even the Wild Wild West was how it's portrayed, of course. And this is an important picture of how narrative is spun, where there's just like these random gun brawls breaking out and tons of people being murdered on right?
Mm-hmm.
The violence takes place in a specific context, and there's specific circumstances around that. And to me, arguing about the guns removes the power of that abstraction in the Constitution, because there's power to it. Clearly there is. It's there, and it's meaningful, and it's given us our culture.
Right.
And so to argue that should change because of specific implementations of that abstraction ignores what's actually corrupted that's leading to that implementation. Like, why, dude, it ain't normal to shoot somebody. That's not like a normal thing. And in fact, it's so abnormal that it's been decreasing over time. I mean, society's way more safe now than it was 50 years ago in terms of violent crime and so forth and so on. So why is that? I mean, it's like the comments I was pointing out. I'll finish with this note.
Right.
Saying that the government is fascist because they're prosecuting this not only weakens the meaning of what a fascist truly is, but it distracts from the complicated situation that's leading to this scenario. Let's call it. That's my point.
Yeah, it's I don't even know, but people will create their own narrative to suit their agenda and to maybe in some ways make themselves either feel like a victim or that they've been justified in their actions.
Yeah, it's the social equivalent of tilting at windmills like Don Quixote.
Yeah, and I just I can count on my hand those people who I maybe two hands at this point that I consider like true friends. Like this is like the argument that I present to people, and they're like, "Oh, this is an ally to the United States." No, dude, or that ain't true. Let me break it down. There's this thing called the Five Eyes: United States, Canada, UK, New Zealand, Australia. It's the only countries the United States really considers as allies.
Yeah.
Everything else is an ally of convenience for a particular point in time.
Right.
That's basically how I look at friends. I've got, somewhere maybe between 4 and 8 people that I say these are friends, true friends. Everyone else is friend for the moment, but not necessarily forever. Right. And I don't involve myself to an extent beyond those things. They got something else going on in life. I'm like, yeah, cool, dude.
Well, it's like we talked about a couple shows ago, that Joe Rogan joke. Do you think Michael Jordan leaves YouTube comments?
Yeah. Right. And I just don't involve myself in the lives of other people. It's not affecting me. And if they're bringing any type of negativity into my life for more than a slight inconvenience, bye.
Yeah, man.
Doesn't
There's
matter.
Too much progress to be made.
I don't have time. If you're causing me drama in that regard, it's time to go.
Yep.
So I tell people, if you're really unhappy at work, then go find another job to make you happy.
Right.
We spend too much time at work, way too much time. So why are you going to spend the majority of your waking hours during a week with something that's making you miserable?
Yeah, exactly.
Go
right.
Be happy.
Right. Well, man, that's a good way to end this guy. I got to go stretch and get ready for this 5K. I'm racing myself today.
Hey, this means you will be the interim.
That's right. I'll be the interim, and we'll have to have a title consolidation. Mrs. Pittman tried to run a little bit 2 days ago. Man, she can't. Still too hurt.
I'm telling you, race or vacate. I'm going right back to it. Race or vacate.
Well, see, this is the beauty of these types of sports and activities. Like cycling is kind of the same way, right? Yeah, you can race as a team. You can race other people. But this is why I like running and cycling, is because really for me, I'm just racing myself, man. Like I know the last time I ran a 5K, I know what my time was because I keep all this data. And so I just want a certain percentage faster than that.
Same thing with golf, martial arts, all that's why I stopped doing team sports. It's not that I didn't enjoy it because I did. I mean, I loved playing baseball, football, basketball. But I learned very, into my adult life, that was a way for them to try to relive their past glories and not really improve anymore. I'm all about improvement, process improvement.
That's why, man. That's why we're at the top of the mountain, but we're only halfway up.
That's right. All right, my friend.
All right, everybody. Happy Easter. Be safe. Take care. See you maybe Tuesday, I guess.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.